Okay guys, the aim of this video is to just quickly show you how to change a cam belt on a Ferrari. This is a Mondial, but it also applies to a 328, which is of course a 4-valve engine, and the 308 is very similar as well. This actual video had been made over a period of time because I'd been refurbishing my engine and making it a bit prettier. So the cam belts came off and then they were put on several weeks later. So you'll have to excuse the video seeming a little bit disjointed in places. It's obviously cut together from lots of different videos over a period of time, but nevertheless, the information is as accurate as I can make it. Obviously, in this particular instance, I don't have air conditioning on my car, so you won't see me taking the air conditioning pump off. The other thing is that I really just wanted to cut to the chase and didn't want to bog you down with taking off air conditioning. If you can't take air conditioning off, you shouldn't be doing this job. So yeah, that's my thinking anyway. I do try and reiterate here several times that I don't actually lock my camshafts, but although I don't lock them, it is absolutely vital that you mark your camshafts so that you know they're in the correct positions. And your benchmark is the view through the oil periphery. There's a marker on the inlet cam on the rear bank of cylinders. Having established that that is correct, all the other camshafts, of course, will line up. So you just draw a line through the cam wheels, through the centres, so that you, or whatever other way you want to mark them, so that they cannot be in the wrong position. That way there's no need to lock them up. And the reason for not locking them up is it's just nice to give them a little bit of freedom of movement when you're putting the belt on. So I hope you understand that. But if you want to lock them up, then feel free to lock them up. No problem at all. Anyway, let's jump in. We've got the cam belt covers off and we're ready to go. So here we go. Now, obviously, to rotate the engine, you use a ratchet. And just remember, go clockwise, because if you go anti-clockwise, it won't damage the engine, but you'll put tension on the wrong side of the belts and get a false reading potentially on the camshafts. So you know, they'll line up differently. Well, they won't, but they will a little bit, depending on how slack your belts are, of course. So make sure you go in a clockwise direction, and if you miss the marker, just go round again. Okay, so that's just so you know. So on your bell housing, there's a little plate, and it's got two little nuts on it. The trick is, well, there is no trick, but the thing is not to have any spanners near it or anything like that, because if you drop anything down it, you've got to take your bell housing off. It's just under there. It's got two little tiny nuts on top of it. You just undo those little tiny nuts, get the nuts well away from it so you don't drop anything down there, and then this plate comes off. You just lift it up and slide it out, and then you can see your timing marker. Well, try as I might, there's the pointer. I don't know if you can see it. It says PM 1 to 4. There you go. And there's a little line just before it, and that's what you want to get on that pointer, which I've painted red. Like I say, I'm coming at it from a funny angle, so hopefully you can see the pointer. That makes sense. Okay, and that's top dead center. PM is Italian for top dead center. Okay, so having found your TDC position on the crank, that doesn't necessarily mean to say that your camshafts are at TDC, i.e. on their marks. So what you have to do, and there are two ways of doing this. You can either take your cam covers off, which is quite a long task and probably not something you really want to do. Or by far the simplest way is to actually verify your camshaft positions by undoing the oil filler cap on the cam covers on the rearmost bank of the engine and looking through the oil filler cap hole, you'll see a little tiny stamp on the camshaft, as you can see here. Now here you can see I've got the cam covers off, but with the cam covers on, this is what you're going to see. So it's kind of quite hard to see, but that shows you that your camshaft position is correct. So it's vital that your camshaft position lines up as well as your TDC mark on your crankshaft.
And because the rotation of the camshafts is half speed to the crankshaft, it's possible to be 180 degrees out on the camshafts, even though you're at TDC on the crankshaft. God, I hope that makes sense. But basically, you can't go wrong if you find TDC on the camshafts with the little marker here and TDC on the crankshaft. Then you are good to go. Then all you do is you mark up your camshafts with little bits of red paint to make sure that they line up. There's no need to lock them. If you draw a line with a ruler through both of the cam wheels, through their centers, then they cannot be out of line. Once you paint the marks on, you'll be able to see that they're perfectly aligned.
So the next thing to do is undo the tensioners. So I'm just going to undo that. I'll just take it out. There you go, that's going to be easier, isn't it? Okay, so I'll do that. Now, the other thing is I don't want it to fall out, okay, which obviously, you know. So we're released on the, now by setting everything to TDC, I don't need to use clamps on the cams or anything like that. I'm not worried about that, because I've got a starting point. I know people like not to find TDC and not to find where the camshafts start from and do it like that. I never understood that, because you need a starting point really. If you've got a starting point, you know where you are. I know in theory it makes no difference where the engine is positioned, but it's so much better if you do have a start point. So there we go. Let me just put that back in there. Put everything back where it came from. We're all cool. There we go. The other thing I do is I'm going to mark which side that is. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's different. Look, so it's different on the back to the front. Okay. So that's the front. That's the back. Like I say, it's a long time since I did one of these, so I'm really doing it all again for the first time. Okay, the other thing I saw, someone wrote up about removing the belt. That is you can get it out of here. I don't know why that was. I mean, little twist and lift and it's out. It must be another variant that I'm not familiar with. Yeah. There you go, both belts are off. I've also taken off the little tensioner, which is going to be filled with grease. I'll take this one off as well eventually, but I'm going to service those both. I'll just show you how to do that as well. The next thing to do to make life really easy on yourself for putting the cam belt on, which is not difficult, is just to get a screwdriver in there, lever against that, okay, and then get the socket and tighten this up. That will hold it in that position, which is the slack position, and lets you get your cam belt on. Here are the cam belts that I got from Super Performance. They're not sided, so you just put them on anyway. I always like the writing to run so that when I'm looking at them, they're that way. Okay, I am just going to check the profile of the teeth with the one that came off. I want to check that they are the same belt, that I've been given the right belt. So I'm just going to check it with the old one a second. It's always a wise idea to check stuff, because you can never take it as read that someone sent you the right part. So if you just blindly put on a cam belt, just assuming that it's the right one, you could end up in a bit of trouble. But basically you just pop it in like that, and then it flips in underneath like that. I hope that's on camera, I can't quite see. Yeah, it is. Okay. So yes, what I was saying about the belts, make sure you've got the right one. Don't rely on the guy in the parts department to have sent you the right belt, because at the end of the day he could have made a mistake, he or she could have made a mistake, and it's not actually ultimately in their interest to get it wrong, but at the same time it's not their responsibility to get it right either. So and at the end of the day, if you fitted the wrong belt and it went bang, you would just get well, sorry mate, I thought you said a T, a Mondial T. Well, actually a Mondial T's got one belt, but you know what I mean. With the tensioner, which is normally here, even with that pushed right over so we've got plenty of room, the belt is really tight going up round this edge here. It just will not hook over. So plan B is I put little clips, these little bulldog clips, to hold the belt, which is they're a bit of a there you go, there's one there. You need to just hold the belt in position. Let me just there's one there, you see, just clipped on the edge, and that kind of holds the teeth into place and gives it a little bit of tension, and then it goes up onto the clip at the top there, as you see, and then there's another one up there holding it, and then there's all the slack. And this is, I think, by far the easiest way to do it. So you take the tensioner off, and with the tensioner still fully adjusted over, what you do is you put the top, hook it behind the belt, put the top one in first. I'm doing this one-handed. Top one in first, use it as a pivot, and then swing the bottom two lugs over, and that will get you into position like. And remember guys, I'm doing this one-handed. I'm going to change hands. Okay. And it really does, I've just done it, so it does do it. It swivels over quite easily actually. Like that, you see, now we're on. That is the easiest way to do it. Then, put your bolts on, which I'll do. I won't make you watch that. So I will make you watch this because this is interesting, well not interesting, but these are not normal washers, these are spring washers. So just bear that in mind, don't swap them out for normal washers if they're corroded. There are nylocks on here as well, so you've got spring washers and nylocks. Obviously Ferrari are fairly cautious about you dropping a nut, if you pardon the expression, onto your cam belt. So it's spring washers and nylocks fitted here, yeah, that is obviously so they don't vibrate loose. Another check to do while the belts are off, or when you've got them loose, is just check the sprocket drives and make sure that there is no play in these at all. Obviously an early sign of problem would be oil leaking from them, because then the seal wouldn't be seating properly as it's running and you'd get an oil leak. So that would be the first sort of warning sign of an imminent problem. I'm just going to go across the top and wiggle them from up here. Well, hopefully not wiggle them from up here. Yeah, that's good. No, that's nice. Another thing is that people always say replace the water pump. Well, as you can see, this one is absolutely fine. It doesn't look particularly new, but it feels like a new water pump. It has no play in it at all. Even the seal is good because it doesn't spin. It just spins a bit and stops, and it's nice and smooth. So that's another good sign that the water pump is fine. Right then guys, I've just rechecked my timing, and these little nuts are just nipped up. They're not done up fully, but they are nipped up. Now when I release this, the tensioner will just spring back and take up the tension on the belt, as you can see there. And like I say, the engine is now still on its timing marks, which is fine. I can take the clips off here, and then look at different ways of tensioning the belt, of which there are many, but obviously can't do that yet because I've still got to do the other side. So I'm going to leave it like that for now, but and then we'll just go on to the other side, and then I'll come back to you. So there's the other side that needs doing exactly the same process. Take the tensioner off, not the bearing, but just the whole unit. Take it off and put the belt on that way. That's definitely an easier way to do it, I think. Right guys, I'm going to try and get from the top so you can see it, just for a bit of fun, and see how we get on. I personally don't like locking the cams up solid, because whenever you put a belt on, there's always a little bit of, you need a little bit of movement just to, so it finds its teeth. If you lock everything solid,
you give the belt probably a little bit of jip, trying to get it on. Right guys, another little fitting tip is when you've got these two lined up and you bridge you put the belt around these two top bits and they line up perfectly and they're not clamped, but you know, I pegged the thing to them. This next run, the straight run that goes around here, that's the next bit you do. You don't bother with that bit, you do this next run. Sometimes when it's down the bottom here, it's half on a tooth, half off. So you can just tweak the cams around a little tiny weeny bit anti-clockwise to allow it to jump on to that tooth, if that makes sense, because then when you do the tensioner, it pulls them back and pulls the tension back into that side. So if you're sort of half a tooth out down here, just adjust them a little bit. You can stock it on this one, not that one, this one, because it's clamped here, so it'll drag that one round and it'll just jump onto there, and then you can release the tensioner. And it will, obviously you check your timing and make sure your timing marks are correct, but the whole idea is that you're just trying to get rid of the big slack, the big piece of bowed slack that was in the other shot that I showed you. So I've just tweaked them around a bit, it's jumped into the notch, and then that's allowed me to get my tensioner on. Right then guys, I checked the timing up on the top here with the camshafts, and that's all fine. Engine obviously still at TDC. Remember, I haven't locked my camshafts because I do like to just have them a little bit free, so that I've got a little bit of leeway. If I'm sort of just a quarter of a tooth out down here, I can just tweak them around a bit, rotate them towards the slack, the long side of the belt, a little tiny bit, allow it to jump on, and then when I release the tensioner, it kind of pulls them back again. But in fact, it's such a small amount that it doesn't matter. So now if I just release the tensioner, you'll see it take up the slack. Okay. And then remove my clips, which are just there to hold the belt in place and stop it ballooning out. And there you go. And we're still in time. Yeah, all my camshaft timing marks are still there, and we're still all at TDC and everything. Lovely. So the next thing to do is just rotate the engine. Right then guys, so cam belt tension. There are quite a few ways of doing this. One is a method called the Verrill method. And what that does is you lock the camshafts there, both sides. You slacken the tensioner. Okay, so camshafts are locked, tensioner slackened, and then you crank this nut in a clockwise direction until both the long side of the belts, i.e. the side, not tensioner side, but the long side, goes taut so that you can pluck it like a guitar string. And then the slack gets taken up by the spring naturally in your tensioner. So whilst applying force to the nut there, you need to get a chum to just tighten that, unless you can do it both hands, you know, like one hand on here applying rotational tension that puts the tension on that side of the belt and that side of the belt simultaneously. Well, obviously you can do one at a time, and then you tighten that. So that's the Verrill method. Okay, the next method is the Ferrari method, which is where you rotate the engine with so you don't have any thing locked up, it's all unlocked. These tensioners are loose, i.e. the nuts are loose, and you rotate the engine and you look at the tensioners moving, and when they move to the maximum amount, as in they're putting the maximum amount of force, taking up the most slack, that's where you lock them off. So you have to look and see where the tensioners move most. Right guys, the method that I use is basically rotate the engine to any sort of random position, then I pull the long end of the belt basically to create slack. So I just turn the cams by pulling the belt, giving it a little bit of a pull and a twist, and then that pulls the cams around a bit. Then I get a nice amount of slack on my long side, the non-tensioner side. Okay, then the method I use is I just feel for a little bit of slack, which I can do with my fingers like that. So I can move just a few, maybe an inch. I'd need to measure it, but it is just
a thumb and forefinger is barely a touch. It's just got a little bit of slack in it. But, and also when you twist it, 45 degrees, 45 degrees. If you're going 90 degrees, it's too much. If you're only twisting 20 degrees, it's too tight. Okay, so 90 degrees, it's too loose. But 45 in either direction, so 45, 45 is nice. Little bit of slack, thumb and forefinger is nice. The sound it makes, for those of you that really want to nail it down. Okay, so the sound it makes is this. It's a very low note. You can just hear it. Okay, and it'll be the same the other side. So here we go. If I just pull this side now, okay, and then listen for the slack, listen to it, that nice low note again. So they're nice and not too much tension in there. And again, 45 degrees, thumb and forefinger.
Okay, so having established the belt tension and you're happy with it, the next thing to do is rotate the engine a couple of times and then recheck the tension. And then after that, rotate the engine to random positions and recheck the tension, but don't forget, pull the long end of the belt with your hand and do the twist test and the deflection test with your fingers, because each time you pull that belt, you rotate the cams a bit and take the tension off of the other side of the belt, and this gives you a correct and true reading. Otherwise, you'll find that your readings will be all over the place, and 1 minute the belt will be tight and the next minute it'll be loose. So by rotating the engine to random positions and pulling the belt, you will always, or should pretty much always, get a consistent reading. And finally, having established that you're happy with your belt tension and everything like that, all there is left to do is just to put your cam belt covers back on and your air conditioning. Now, as you can see, I don't have air conditioning here, so I'm good to go.
I shall fire it up before I put the engine cover back on, so we can just make sure everything's all right and look for any little things I may have missed or whatever. While the engine cover's off, it's easy to see. So and then we'll just give it a go. Lovely sound of a Ferrari singing. Anyway, I hope this video has been useful to you as to how to do a cam belt change, and as you can see, whilst I was doing the change, I actually did smarten up my engine a little bit as well. I think you'll agree it looks rather splendid sat there in the middle. The red really sort of stands out. All right, it's orange, it's not actually red, it's an orange. So I shall go over it now and do the injectors and clean up the fuel injector pump and stuff like that, and various other little bits, but basically it's looking pretty nice now. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope it's been helpful to you.